you ever had a goal that just seemed impossible? If so, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Notable Peeps podcast, a series that gives attention to remarkable people who are putting on their shoes, doing their best, and believing in the impossible.
All my dreams are coming true.
Welcome to the Notable Peeps podcast. My name's Steph, and I'm chatting with Eleanor. And Eleanor, the tagline for this podcast is put on your shoes, do your best, and believe in the impossible. Can you tell us about a time in your life where you were struggling and how you were able to overcome it?
So actually the past year and a half of my life has been a time of great struggle. In June of 2024, I was hit by a car and suffered a traumatic brain injury. And when you have a traumatic brain injury, there's so many things that go on, as you can imagine. But a couple of things is that has made this season especially hard was the fact that number one, it changes your brain chemistry. So you have more there's depression, anxiety that comes with that, but then it's like the loss of identity, because things that used to come very easy for you, things that used to be second nature for you, all of a sudden you can't do anymore. And so and you're doing these therapies, and you're trying to do the best you can, and some days, yeah, it's getting out of bed even, and one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm writing, doing some writing on Substacks, and I've just now am finishing an 8-week series on bad days, and about how we need to sit in bad days and be in those bad days. But and I'm about to start. It's funny that's this podcast, because I'm about to start next week, is the next day. And that's the day when you finally are like, okay, I've had this bad season. Now it's time to start building those little tiny practices. And maybe it is brushing your teeth every day. Because when you're in those seasons that you're just stuck, you don't brush your teeth. Like, as weird as it sounds, like on the other side of it, it's like, I'm pretty sure there were weeks that I maybe brushed my teeth once, maybe twice, because it was just one more thing that I felt like I just couldn't. I just would forget about. I was doing everything I could to keep my kids fed, to keep um, not just sit in bed. And it's like it would be like I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and be like, "Did I brush my teeth yesterday?" So
Okay, there's so much I want to talk to you about.
yes.
So what were some of the things that you had to relearn how to do?
Well, I'm still learning a lot of them, but I I can't cook. So when the interesting thing about this injury is your intelligence is still there, um, but the way you can use your intelligence to make your body do things and say things is different. Um, and so anything with multi steps is hard. I had to um, relearn to drive. um, and I still, my stamina, I still can only drive about an hour a day, but you are constantly in fight or flight mode. So I would be driving, and I would, everyone has peripheral vision, but if I saw something over here, I would think, oh my gosh, it's coming to get me. And I'd slam on brakes, so you have to reset your nervous system. Um, it's hard. I can't do laundry, which some people are like, oh, that's the dream. It is the dream until you haven't done laundry for a month for 5 people. But because it just becomes so overwhelming and so exhausting to do anything that's multi-step. Um, I had to learn to use my eyes again to read, because my eyes get real jumpy. Um, so it was all these one there's an NFL player here in Charlotte named Luke Kuechly who had several concussions, and he did a podcast once, and he talked about how you're doing these exercises, and they're just so stupid. Like, one of the things I do, I have a dot on my wall, on a Post-it note, and I have to look at it, and I have to shake my head, and you're just looking at that dot, and you're like, "How is this making me better?" But it makes you feel so bad that you're like, it's gotta be making you better, and you do it with a metronome so you can speed up. Um, so it's a very, interesting and um, humbling journey, I'll say, when you're trying to rehab your brain.
And when you were talking about the tasks before, even, like, forgetting to brush your teeth and, like, stuff like that, uh, I'm sure when you talk about humbling, it just probably changed your whole pace of life too, to not be able to do things with, like, these steps in them.
Yeah, and I was prior to the accident, I, I was a contractor, but I had multiple contract like, I was, um worked with a charter school that was goal was that mission is to eradicate generational poverty. I was part-time at a pastor at a church that was doing some neat things in their community. I was working for an organization that did working to unite campus ministries all across the state. I was also the primary caregiver for children. Um, One of the things that was a great thing about having kids at later stage in life is I had kind of earned my stripes professionally. So, like, I could set my own schedule and I could work when my kids were in preschool, or I could work where they napped. Um and so we didn't have a nanny. We didn't have daycare. I was the primary person who did the house stuff. Like, I kind of felt like I had the best of both worlds. I was had a great career, professional life, and I was able to be almost like a stay-at-home mom. Like, I was able to go to music class with my kids since the time they were born, and those sort of things. And so I went from this big full life to, like, I and probably would. I mean, in the very beginning, I was spending probably 10 out of the 12 hours I was awake in my bedroom, because it's the one place I could control the sound and the lights, all of those things. And even now, I would say, um, I spend far more time in my home than I do anyplace else, and that was not the case at all. I love community, I love people, um, and and I love there was a lot of good work happening in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I'm from, on, like, improving some neighborhoods and stuff like that, and, like, I'd made some strong relationships and one of the corridors, and, like, I would go I'd love pressure washing the wall to prepare for a mural. I mean, I was not gonna be the mural painter, um, and the people that I met along the way. So it's, yeah, I mean, our lives have completely changed, in every possible way.
And, what ways have they changed for the better? Are there any ways that it's changed for the
Well,
better?
so here's the interesting thing, and it's funny, I need to be quiet because my husband's in the other room, and if he hears this, like, he'll probably use it against me, um, but, because I was busy. I was really busy, but it was all stuff I loved. I mean, I loved everything that I did, and, you hear people say, "Oh, you gotta say no, and you need to say no," um, and and it was hard to say no because I truly loved everything that I did, and there were so many other things I wanted to do, um, and, but one of the things that has happened since the accident is because I can't do so many things, and because I have to spend a lot of time, like, resting, and I have to spend a lot of time I do, a lot of walking outside, um, is I have been able to start writing, in a way, and a lot of times when I say writing, I have to admit that a lot of times it's me talking voice to text, because it's still hard for me to be in front of a computer for extended period of times, but, and I've been able to really wordsmith things in a way that I couldn't before, and I always had great okay, so now I feel like I'm being brave. I was always told I had great content when I wrote, like when I would write church newsletters or when I would do, um, things like that, but I just didn't I never took the time to kinda go that extra mile to really because would much rather be doing and be in, and around people than sitting with my own thoughts and putting them together. Um, and so that's been a really powerful gift for me, in this season, um, to feel like I'm still connecting with the world, even if it's not in a face-to-face, interaction. I think, I also say these podcasts, that I've been able to be a guest on have been really great, for me to continue to tell the story and hopefully help people. Um, I really, I can't go walk the streets of a neighborhood and build relationships and talk that way, but I hopefully can, through taking the opportunities to tell my story, help, number one, spread the awareness about women and brain injuries, which is way under told. Number two, help, people, um, understand and know that it's okay, even though it's hard to ask for help and receive help. That was very hard for me because I was always the helper. And number three, I'm really on this mission to tell people um, that resiliency doesn't mean a happy ending necessarily or everything tied up in the bow. It's what you do with the things that come into your life that are not ideal, but how you use them to reach you, make your roots stronger, and to help you grow, and build something new.
Hearing you talk about your life before and your life now, it makes sense that, like, one of the messages that you talk about, the reason I wanted to book you is turning your purpose into pain. And is it hard? Because, I mean, like, the way sometimes when people have a brain injury, like, their speech is different and stuff. Is that sometimes hard that, like, it just talking to you and stuff, no, people wouldn't know that you've had that, but then there's these other things like cooking or the laundry, like things with steps that make it hard for
And
you.
it's very yeah, it is hard, and I haven't quite figured it out, yet, because I do present normal, for a period of time. Now, after I get off, like, I can feel my head. It's funny, my head is starting to tingle. That means my headache's gonna come back and my ears getting clogged. Um, I can sit and talk to you for an hour or so, and then I'm gonna need downtime. And it's funny because today actually my kids have the day off of school, and normally that would be like my jam and, I'd have the day plan and stuff like that, but actually we've had to hire a part-time nanny and like she's coming because I'll need to be able to recover before I can be alone with them again. That's the other really big thing that changed. It's really hard for me as I can't, be as present for my kids. I mean, I didn't have my first child until I was 40. Um, and, I, um that's all I've ever wanted to be was a mom, and so to have to hand off some of those responsibilities is probably the most difficult thing. Like, I mean, if I could well, I mean, who wouldn't want to hire someone to do all your laundry and to cook all your meals? Although I was a big cook too, so that would be hard, but, have to miss, even the smallest moments with my children, um, is or have to share them with someone, like, that's really, hard, but, we're figuring out the flow, I think, and, part of me I have a shirt that's, like, from the Concussion Legacy Foundation that says, "My injury is invisible, not imaginary," and, like, I have a hat that says, like, "The Invisible Injury Club," and sometimes, like, I wear those because it's kinda like because this is part of who I am, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"You need to see this, people need to know this about me," even though I can I can't do a full grocery shopping, like, doing 15 minutes in the grocery store really overwhelms you. Grocery store's, like, the worst place um, for headaches, and um but I am really, um, but it's but I do wanna be treated normal at the same
Mhm.
time. I want people to be aware of my injury. Anyway, it's one of those, um things. And it's funny because, I was a big advocate, as you can tell, like, I'm really into people and connecting with people and authentically and respecting people and being who they are. And one of the things, like, my son had a kid, in his class, that we became friends with, Henry, who was in a wheelchair, and he had a I don't exactly remember, what the name it was, but, like, his muscles weren't developing, and they never would. And, one of the things we taught our kids from very young age is that everyone has different abilities, so it's not you're disabled. Um, and as I've gone through this, I actually sent Henry's mom a post that I did on, my personal Instagram page about why I use the word disabled for me, because this was not something I was born with. I used to be fully able to do so many things, and I no longer can. So my abilities are I'm at a disadvantage of what I was, a few years ago or, even a year and a half ago. So it's very, um yeah, I don't know that I answered your question. I did answer it by just showing you how difficult it is because, I don't wanna be defined by this, but I also am 100% defined by this.
Yeah. And do you ever have, because like just talking to you, right? Like you do seem to be have that like upbeat, like positive personality, but does it ever take a toll where it just is like you're longing for the past life
Oh,
that
yeah,
you
okay.
had?
So you're seeing the good me, the happy me,
Uh-huh.
um I mean, yeah, there's a lot of dark times, still. There are seasons, and that I go through that I'm very sad and very depressed and very and I really, um and it's hard, and honestly, it's so gonna get way more. Honestly, I have a appointment with my I have a sports psychiatrist that specializes in concussion. I'm gonna meet with her in a couple weeks to talk about my medication because 'cause I'm wondering if I'm not on enough medication because that can be, because your chemistry does change, and I've kind of been, you know, "Okay, this is hard, so of course I'm gonna be depressed." Um, but It I think that I'm kinda past the initial, "This is hard, I shouldn't be I do think that there's something more going on because, I mean, I have every reason a lot of days, um, to be happy, and I have moments, like, there and this is I'll tell you that and this is what it's like because this day, was when it was kinda like, this isn't good." Um, we were driving to school, and right now we're a one-car family, and, so we drop my husband off at work, and I drop my kids off at school. And getting out of the house with 3 kids is always like, "Wow," you know? And, God bless him, but my husband is normally the last one in the car. And I have, in that time, gotten 3 kids ready and lunches packed and all that, and he's, like, strolling in the car. And, we were, nitty like, not fighting, but, snipping at each other, and I was like, "Get in the car, Blake, get in the car." And so he gets in the car and to kinda flip the script switch on the way to school and to drop him off, like, I was asking the kid, "Okay, what was your favorite part of this weekend, and what was your favorite part of and that sort of thing." And, it turned into this great, the kids were making fun of us, and the kids were saying, "My favorite part was when mom said, 'Get in the car, get in the car,'" like, we were just laughing, I mean, we were just dying. And we dropped my husband off, and then my kids' school is about 15 minutes away, and we dropped them off, and we're just I mean, just die, like, just telling all these stories. Yet the moment they get out of the car, like, I just wanted to cry. I felt completely empty. Like, that joy the joy doesn't last. Um, and, y and that's hard. And I do think part of it is still, like, my chemistry is off. Um, but I also, no, and kinda and part of what I'm writing about and why I started writing is, nothing's gonna make this okay. Like, this is always gonna be like, I'm always gonna be sad about what I've lost in my life, I think, on some level. I mean, I could, let's say Oprah hears this podcast because, she really likes your work, Stephanie, and then and she's like, "Ooh, I like that Eleanor Shell, she's got good stuff," and I get a hour-long Oprah special, and then, I write best-selling books, and then I'm traveling all over the world to tell my story and, making millions of dollars and, living this life that I never thought I was living, and I become best friends with Kristen Bell and, it's always been the dream, and Reese Witherspoon, and I would still give it all up to have my life that I had on June 11th, 2024. Um, and so, yeah, that's always gonna be part of my journey, in a way. But and I think we all have, whether it's big like mine or it's small, I think we all have that. We all have those days um that change everything. And we all have those moments that, there was life before and there's life after. And one of the things what I wrote about in one of the bad day collection essays was that like you don't need to compare bad days. Like some people are like, "Well, I was never hit by a car and I never had a brain injury." That doesn't mean that your bad day where you were in bad traffic and then you're late for an interview and you didn't get the job that you really thought you wanted and and you feel like your life would have taken a different turn had you got it. Doesn't make it any less of a bad day for you than mine is for me. Um it still was something that shaped and changed your life, and it's something you'll mourn. Um, so, uh so yeah, I mean, the grief is there. Most people don't see it anymore, besides my husband, and my in-laws. They're local. My mom's in Atlanta, so she doesn't see it as much because, um, I also don't wanna be the victim. I don't want people to feel like, "Oh my gosh, Eleanor's here, we gotta be." She's gonna be sad, and that sort of stuff, like, I don't wanna be treated with gloved hands like that because I don't wanna feel this way, um, and the best thing that could happen is when I'm around other people is that I don't feel this way.
Thank you so much for sharing all that. And can I pivot a little bit because I'm curious because you had your first kid at 40.
Mhm,
And as we talk about mourning that past version of ourselves, like, that's something that I haven't had kids, and it's, like, something that like, a couple Mother's Days ago, I just had to, like, mourn that and be like, "Okay, this probably won't happen because I have so many friends with infertility, and even if I meet someone" you know what I mean? Like, it
mhm.
just spirals that. So, like, was that part of your plan to, like, have your first kid at 40 or,
No,
um
I wanted to be married and have kids at 23. Um,
okay.
I mean, yeah, I was actually told so I have lupus, and I knew that since I was 12 and had been told very early on if I didn't have a kid by with chance that it was very unlikely I wouldn't be able to carry a kid to term, and if it didn't happen by 30, it probably wouldn't happen. And I didn't meet the right person. I would date um, and there were a couple that I thought was right. There was one that I thought was really right. There were a couple that I tried to make right. Um, and Dude, yeah, but Mother's Day I had about f 5 or 6 Mother's Days that I was just like I just was distraught. I cannot tell you the tears that I cried and the people that listened to me again and again and again and again because that's the only thing I could think of. Um, and, I, when I was 36 or 37. Um, I kinda had this really great year. In May of that year, I, won an award, for the junior league here in Charlotte, which was a really big deal. Um, I completed a program called Leadership Charlotte here in Charlotte and was recognized by my classmates for some things with an award, and that was a big deal. I was kind of at the top of my game career wise. Like I was on several boards, lots of community recognition. I was going to fun events, and I was like, if anything was ever going to be enough without a husband and kids, this would be it. And I was like, and it's not enough, and I'm not going to have it. And I was very, very depressed that summer. And I had friends. I have a good friend, Laquita Porter, who's kind of like my fairy godmother. And she was saying, what if you just had a baby or and stuff. And it's like, no, I don't, I want the whole thing.
Mhm.
Um, and I met my husband. And I hate it. I'm going to tell you this. I hate this part of the story because it's all the stupid cliches that you hear. It's when you least expect it, and it's when you've given up, and it's like, oh, I hated hearing all those when I was single, but that's what happened with me. And anyway, we and it was amazing because we were a year apart in age, and he had never been married and had kids, because that was kind of one of those things I had decided, like, didn't think I was set out I was made out to be a stepmother, because I'm very particular about how I want my kids to be raised and how they dress, and I didn't want to have to deal with another culture. And I had seen some people, like some of my friends, because they were older, some of my friends were getting into that stepmother phase, and seeing that, and I was like, I'm just not sure I'm made out for that. um, and, we we both wanted 3 kids. We get I was ready to get married after 6 months, like, I knew he was the one, and it took him a little longer. We got married the summer, or no, we got engaged the summer, um, that I was 38. We got married, I was 39. And I the first thing and I was very, firm, like, I was not gonna try to have kids. A lot of people are like, "Okay, we're engaged, let's try to get pregnant," and if, we have a baby at 3 months in. And I just remember my grandmother telling the story about how, like, she waited a year because she didn't want anybody to think that she had to get married to have kids, and I was like,
Mhm.
"I just don't want that to be a part of my story." And so, we got married on December 31st, and in November, I had made an appointment to go to the fertility clinic here in Charlotte because, I mean, I knew people 26 who were healthy who were having fertility
Mhm.
problems.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was like, and I'm 40 and I have lupus and I have all these things. And um, on February 14th, Valentine's Day, which is my favorite day, um, we came home from church, or we went to church, and I told my husband, I was like, I think I might be pregnant. And we went and got a um, early test result, or one of those early detection, and, we played the Eric Church song, Two Pink Lines, because it was about this time, and I was pregnant, and it was like, "What?" And, very cautious, very, 'cause the, lupus patients have a high rate of miscarriage. um And at 40 years old, I had a beautiful, healthy, beautiful, and we said we were gonna be the parents. If our kids were not cute, we were gonna say, "They weren't cute, but ours," and unfortunately, all our kids are really cute. Beautiful little healthy boy. And, uh, and so we made the decision right then that, God had given us one healthy, natural, like, we were not gonna do fertility treatments for anymore. Like, we were gonna take as many as God gave us. 2 years later, Jake came along, who is our man in the middle, and oh my gosh, he's a middle child. And and we tried for the third, and we didn't think it was going to happen. And I actually, a year before I found I was pregnant with Blakely, we had a really bad miscarriage. It was awful. Um, and I mourned for a year because I was like, this is, we're just not meant to have 3 kids. And and I prayed. My prayer was, I'm Christian, and if you're not Christian or you don't pray, but I mean, I think everyone has some type of higher power, whatever.
Mhm.
I was like, if this is not the will of the universe or the will of God, take this away from me. I don't want to. And I got to this place where I was like, um, I felt firm that we were gonna have a third, but I didn't know how. I didn't know if it was gonna be adoption or if it was gonna be foster children or, what. And, and honestly, this is the craziest story. Um, I wrote a big post on social media about a year ago. I had a miscarriage, and, it took me, and I finally am at peace with this, um and everything. And honestly, I thought I was starting menopause. I kept having these like similar, like I was like waking up in sweats, and I was like, I'm texting my friend. I was like, oh my gosh, this is perimenopause is here, and I'm gonna have all this. And but then I like 2 days later, I was like, I've got these little sticks. Maybe I should try. Maybe I should just see. And I went and did the test, and I did two of them. And so I was pregnant, and I remember I went to my husband, and I was taking my kids somewhere, and I handed him to him as he was walking out the door. He was working at home, and I said, "Here we go." And then I walked out the door. Like he called me. He's like, "What?" Um, and at 46 years old, we had accidentally gotten pregnant, which was crazy. I mean, who would have ever thought? And even when obviously at that point you have like you're high risk and you've seen maternal fetal medicine and all that. And the one time we were at maternal fetal medicine, the guy's like reading through the chart, and he's reading the chart, and he looks at me, he looks at my husband, he's reading the chart, and he's like, "Is this an IVF? Was this IVF?" And we're like, "No." And he looked at my husband, he's like, "All right, man," and gave him a high five. Um, and and it's funny because of course, I mean, I'm gonna be 50 years old walking into kindergarten. Um, But, first of all, I'll say one of the cool things is that we've realized we're not alone in this. There are more and more women. As a matter of fact, just a few years ago, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, there are actually more women having children in their 40s than there are who are teens, which was um, amazing. Um, and so we're not alone. I mean, I have a guy I graduated from high school with who's like 2 years older than me, and he had a daughter the same year. So, we have friends who have kids who are graduating high school, and we're the ones with the baby at the, um, the reunion. And I think there's a lot of pressure put on women, and there's that whole time clock and that sort of thing. But um, in my case, it wasn't a issue. And I'm careful because I don't want to tell this to everyone, and have people say, well, oh, it wasn't, it's not going to be an issue for me. But I, also want people to have hope and know that it's not. And actually there's a new book out that, and I can email it to you, and maybe you can put it out for your listeners if people want it. That a local influencer here just told us or just posted about, and I for the first time posted on her page and admitted the ages I was when I had my kids. That there's a doctor that's written about for women to be able to take control of their fertility and know, you know what I'm saying, like know um, what they can do to help make sure it stays. And that they do have options.
I think that most people that get married later in life, you know yourself a little bit better, right? And
Mhm.
so you pick a partner probably different than you would when you were in your 20s. And
Yeah.
with everything that you guys have gone through together, um, like your husband, I don't really know my question that I wanna ask here, but sort of like
I don't know if I don't know if I can
yeah, yeah.
perfectly answer a question you haven't asked, but I will say this. Thank God that I married the man that I did, and thank God that, um, yeah, and our lives, I'll say, as much as I loved my life beforehand, our lives weren't perfect beforehand. So he had gone back to graduate school, and we were kind of just starting to get back on our feet financially. And I kind of thought or if I get married at 40, like, we're gonna be rolling in it, and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
and like that was not the case at all. He had really been affected. His career was really affected by the economic downturn in 2008, and has just taken a while to rebuild. And but you say those vows when you get married, no matter what, how you get married, you make promises to each other, and you think you know what you're promising, but you have no idea. And I'll say this, even before my accident, we had no idea what we were promising. When and um even people who live together, like, for years before they get married, they say the same thing, like once you get married, like, something changes. And my husband, in this past year and a half, has stepped up in so many ways, in the ways that matter. And what is the most inspiring and impactful to me is the way he has stepped up has shaped the way our children show up.
Mhm.
And, my 8-year-old, the other kids, the baby doesn't know any different.
Yeah.
The 6-year-old knows a little bit, but my 8-year-old, he knew mommy beforehand. He knew that mommy always made his cakes from scratch. He knew mom was always the volunteer at school. He knew that mommy, um, never missed a game or a practice, and that, you know, helped him and made big craft projects, and every holiday was over the top and all that. And because of the example of his father, my 8-year-old tells me every day that I'm still the best mom, even though my brain is different. He, when I'm having a bad day, he tells me all the things I did right and all the things that made him feel good that day. He, when I'm doing an exercise that's hard, or when he can tell I'm really tired, he thanks me for working so hard to try to get my brain back. And he does that because he's seen his dad do that for the last year and a half. And my husband, he's not perfect. He is not one that could start doing the laundry and run with it. He's not the one that can start cooking meals. But what he gives me emotionally, um, and what he takes on emotionally, it's worth more than anything. I mean, we live in Charlotte's a town that there are a lot of very wealthy people. And there are mom Facebook groups, and I have another friend, that was in there, and a lot of times we will joke, we're like, "Are we the only happy married people here?" Because there are all these people that posted anonymously that was like, "How do you get out of marriage if you haven't worked or you haven't," and some of these women, I mean, they have the car and the house and the country club membership and that sort of stuff, but they don't have the love that we have. And it's funny, when we got married, the month before we got married, I had 2 friends that, both knew me, and then they knew my husband in separate ways. One had gone through, a leadership program with my husband, and, the other one had grown up with my husband. And the one that went through the leadership program with my husband, she didn't quite come out and say it, but she was like, "If you wanna get out of this and you wanna," because he didn't have the financial career success that a lot of people our age did, a lot of our peers did. Um, but she was very clear, without actually saying, "If you wanna leave him and wait for someone better, you can come live with me and I'll take care of everything." And then the same week I had lunch with another friend of mine who was actually my husband's first girlfriend in 7th grade. Um, and I told her, I said, "Yeah," it's like, our other mutual friend kinda bummed me out when she said, um, what she said, and Marjorie looked at me and said, "I am not worried about you and Blake." Said, "I've known him almost my whole life, and he has always been kind." And, And he is. He's kind and he's loyal. Sometimes I think he's too kind and loyal to people outside the house, and when it comes professionally and that sort of stuff. But he is, and um, and I'll say thank God with what we've gone through. I mean, there was a friend of mine, someone who um I actually was his babysitter and, watched him grow up, and he's now married with because of his own and when he first found out how bad things was, it was about a year, after the accident, and he realized everything we'd been going through, he's like, "I would've been gone." He's like, "I wouldn't have stayed with her." Um, and, uh, and he's not alone. I mean, I think there's, like, 60 to 70% of marriages with a TBI, when it's the woman end in divorce within the first 2 years. And I will say that, we're stronger than ever, and that is um, truly a gift, and, um, there and we, and things are still rough. I mean, he ended up actually losing his job, because of my accident, and he was new at a job and didn't have FLMA, and currently he's underemployed, so things aren't great financially and, that sort of stuff, but we, um, almost every day at some point we look at each other, it's like, "We're gonna be okay because of this, because of what we have between us and our kids." Um, and, you know, I think we want that and we say we want that when we're younger and looking for a mate. I don't think we know how to judge that when we're younger. Um,
Well,
and and here are the 2 things that I will tell you that I think that can help you judge that. Number 1, don't look at how they treat you, but look at how they treat the people that they don't like. And number 2, um, for men, look at how they treat their mamas. So I and my husband is always kind to everyone, even the people who do not deserve his kindness, in my opinion. And oh my, does that man love his mama?
mm,
And this sounds cliche too, but there's always something that you can be thankful for, or something. And if you can focus on that one tiny bit of joy you can find, you'll find that it grows very quickly.
well, I feel like that's a great advice to end on.
Yeah.
So thank you, Eleanor, and to those of you who have joined this conversation. And thanks for tuning in and listening. And just remember, whatever you're going through in life, to continue to put on your shoes, do your best, and believe in the impossible. And I'll catch you guys next Sunday.
All my dreams are coming true.